Monaco raiding the offices of a little-known company called Unaoil. That raid making international headlines, however, because it comes after a major corruption expose of the company from an Australian news agency called Fairfax Media. They did it in conjunction with the Huffington Post. The expose alleges that that company helped major international oil companies pay bribes throughout the Middle East in order to get oil deals. Unaoil is run by the Hassani family, father Atta and his two sons Cyrus and Saman. They're prominent on the international social and philanthropy scene. These allegations come as there are enormous corruption scandals breaking out all over the world, most notably recently in Brazil, for example. Joining us to discuss how it all happens, Richard B. Strong. He's CEO of Frontline Anti-Bribery. Before that, though, he wore a wire for the feds in a massive corruption scandal and served prison time as part of it. Frank Vogel is a longtime crusader against corruption, author of Waging War on Corruption. Guys, good to have you here. Richard, I'm going to start with you. I'm assuming a lot of our viewers haven't been able to read this big expose. If they were, they'd be able to read a lot of the emails. Here's the thing, Richard. When I look at these emails, I can't tell there's bribery going on. There's so many code words, I'm told. How does it work?
Well, Dick Bauman and his team at the Huffington Post did a great job pulling the curtain back on how it works. And I think what the article demonstrates is that these bribes are well hidden. They might not even come to the attention of an auditor in that they're buried beneath what might be considered to be normal transactions. But, Michelle, the article also demonstrates how even for a well-intentioned multinational that has a rigorous and robust anti-bribery compliance program, a lot of these intermediaries or fixers, well, they don't take it quite as seriously. Many think of themselves outside the law, that they're not a party to international anti-bribery conventions, even though, and I've seen this in my experience, some of them might sign on that they do take it seriously.
So many of these international companies claim they thought they were just hiring a legitimate lobbyist. Do you believe them? Should they have known better? Or are there a lot of warning signs about this particular company that should have told them better?
Well, Michelle, this particular company is wrapped in risk. When you look at an organization that's based in Monaco, a tax haven, incorporated in the Virgin Islands, another tax haven, they're doing business in what Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index rates as some of the lowest integrity regions in the world, including the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia. And then the energy sector in itself is high risk. So I don't see anything about their operations that's not high risk. And as senior editor of the FCPA blog, Andy Spalding, recently wrote, deliberate avoidance, deliberate ignorance and willful blindness for these multinationals is neither an excuse nor a defense.
Frank, you just heard Richard talk about how the energy industry in general has so many issues when it comes to corruption. What do you say to people out there who are looking at this and saying, look, if you want to do business in certain parts of the world, this is the way it's done. In fact, there are some countries in Europe where you can still expense a bribe.
Well, there are very few. The truth of the matter is that never before has the U.S. Justice Department decided to make such a big issue of going after companies that bribe foreign government officials. There's no smoking gun yet in the Unaoil story, so we'll have to wait for that, but probably it will come out. But you know, just to give you a sense of the risk, in Brazil, hundreds of business people caught up with another oil company, this one Petrobras, have gone to prison. They've been indicted. It's an enormous corruption scandal. Foreign companies are involved. And, Michelle, don't forget, the head of the biggest construction company in Latin America, Odebrecht, has been sentenced to 19 years in prison. So this has become very serious. And for investors looking at emerging markets, for example, if they don't follow these corruption stories in Malaysia, Ukraine, Brazil, and of course South Africa, many of which are tied to oil, and of course add to that Nigeria, then I think they're making a mistake.
Frank, really quickly, have we gotten to a real turning point, do you think, when it comes to corruption in the world?
It's country by country. I think Brazil is on the edge, South Africa's on the edge, but we've got a long way to go when you look at Russia, one of the most corrupt countries in the world, using oil as a major tool for corruption.
Richard and Frank, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back, Richard. I want to hear more about wearing that wire for all that time. All right, Melissa?
Thank you.